We begin today with the Los Angeles Rams humiliating the Arizona Cardinals last night and Matthew Stafford getting the first playoff win of his 13-year career. Odell Beckham had a particularly effective game, catching 4 passes, including the first touchdown, and later himself passing for 40 yards. Wilbon, did this win restore your faith in the Rams, if you had any to begin with? Because I did at one point.
I know you did, Tony. I think you still should. I mean, they're in the next round of the playoffs. They're moving on.
Yeah.
No, not for me, and it doesn't have anything to do with the Rams necessarily. I mean, I don't have overwhelming faith in any of these teams, as I've been saying all season long. The fun of the season is nobody's much better than another. And so I'll get to part of the reason I have no faith, no particular faith in the Rams when we talk about actually the Cardinals. But Tone, the Rams have, when you have Aaron Donald and that defensive front, I mean, you got to have some faith in them because they can dominate a game. Yeah. They can, even if they're not dominating the game, they can control the game. And I thought running the ball as much as they did, not asking their quarterback, who won his first playoff game, to do too much. Remember, we used to use game managing, and we used to talk about certain quarterbacks, how they could manage the game, and you didn't want to ask them to do too much to try to win the game. I mean, the Rams seem to be in that space last night, and that's okay, because you can keep managing the game and win the game. But do I have any particular faith in the Rams at this point? No, I don't.
So this was the exact kind of circumstance I thought about when they made the trade Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford, and I said at that day they could win the Super Bowl. This is the way you control a game. They are a star-laden team, Mike. They got Aaron Donald, as you mentioned. They got Von Miller. They got Odell Beckham Jr. People said, well, why would he go there? Well, this is why he would go there. He's got a bunch of touchdowns lately. They got Cooper Kupp. And they've got Matthew Stafford, who, if he plays like this, is a star. He threw 17 times. He completed 13 of them. And he had 3 drops. And the most important thing was he had no interceptions. When you have a star-laden team, what you're hoping for, because you're all veterans if you're stars, what you're hoping for is you get to a playoff game, a win-or-go-home game, and you put your best out there. I don't know if they can do this again. I don't know. But this is the kind of game where it's said to me, yeah, they can win. Next, Mike, they're at Tampa Bay, which is a real Super Bowl team. Yeah. They're hurting. I mean, Godwin is not going to play. Antonio Brown is lost at sea. I don't know about Fournette, and I don't know about all the interior offensive linemen. But are they now a favorite, Mike? No, they're not. You're never a favorite against Tom Brady. Never. Yeah. You're not.
No. And after the game, J.J. Watt called the Cardinals season, quote, a massive failure, close quote. And Kyler Murray agreed. Tone, what would you call it?
Well, I'll tell you where I'd use massive failure. I would use that one play where Kyler Murray did an impersonation of Carson Wentz in the end zone and just threw the ball wildly up in the air and had a 2-yard pick six. That was a massive failure. Would I look at the whole season as a massive failure? I wouldn't. Mike, in the last 3 years, they were 5-10-1, then 8-8, and now 11-7. I would call this loss disappointing. I would call going 1-5 at the end of the year very disappointing. But let's look at what happened. The Cardinals beat the Rams the first time they played on the road, then lost twice to them and got killed in the playoffs. This is exactly the same thing that happened with Bill Belichick and the Patriots with Buffalo. Beat them on the road, lost 2 in a row, got killed in the playoffs. You would never say massive failure about Bill Belichick and the Patriots, because if you say massive failure, Mike, the next question is, should we fire the coach? That's the next question.
We can bring that question up, but before I get to that question, I'd like to just jump on the Cardinals with both feet, because they're a massive failure. They're a disappointment. They're not well coached enough. They're not smart enough. They're not poised enough. It looks like they have talent all over the place, although people question their depth. Tony, they are a massive disappointment to start the season the way they did and then just flatline. They make stupid penalties. They have stupid stretches of plays. And I told you, I was rooting for them, but I told you weeks ago, the Cardinals are done. Right. When they lost to the Packers, there was only one loss. They were done. They don't respond. They don't rally. They don't adjust. They're just dullards. And watching them last night, I knew they were going to be down at least 14-0. They're not paying attention, Tony. I hate teams like that. And you know what? When I'm watching the Mannings,
coach?
Yeah, of course you go to the coach.
Cliff Kingsbury?
Yes.
What would you do?
I don't know what I would do yet, but right now, today, if I own that team, I'd call him and others in. And I'd say, you know what?
Right.
The smartest, most resourceful, the best guy we got in this town was on TV with the Manning brothers last night. All right?
Larry
now,
Fitzgerald.
I am friends with Larry Fitzgerald. I'm not going to even deny that. I can't deny that. Hang out with him. I love him. I've known him all his life. All right? I have not talked to him about this. But I'm listening to Larry. I know how hard he roots for them. And there's got to be, he didn't come back this year, Tony. He didn't come back this year. He knew what he was walking away from in that locker room, likely. Again, this is me supposing, not him telling me
I'm going to give you two mitigating factors with the Cardinals. One, DeAndre Hopkins, their best receiver and maybe the best receiver in the league, missed about the last 6-7 games or something like that. And two, they're in the hardest division in all of football. I mean, again, if you want to go to Kingsbury, because you want to look at Kingsbury at the end of years, 2-7, 3-6, 1-5 in his 3 years, and you say he can't close. So maybe, and this is a legitimate question, is it because the players don't listen to him? Is it because he doesn't make adjustments well? But I would call this one game a massive disappointment, but not the season. We'll move to basketball. The Lakers beat the Jazz last night for their first win after 3 straight losses, including a 37-point blowout by Denver last Saturday. Now, this win is small news. The big news, according to The Athletic, is that Frank Vogel was coaching for his job last night. The Athletic says had the Lakers lost last night, many believe Vogel would have been fired. And indeed, Vogel may be coaching game to game now. Wilbon, should Vogel's job be on the line?
Hell no. All right? And I sit with somebody on another show, Stephen A. Smith, who has not been calling for it, but he's been saying for 6 weeks that Vogel was going to be fired. And I'm like, you know what? Fire some of that team. Because this ain't Frank Vogel's fault. Because Phil Jackson wouldn't do anything with this team. Because Red Auerbach and Pat Riley and Greg Popovich, they wouldn't do jack with this team. This team was put together in a way that didn't make any sense. And people said, okay, we'll give them some time because of who they are. Because they got 6 Hall of Famers, starting with the big ragu, starting with LeBron James. And LeBron James has been LeBron James, okay? I don't want to hear about the injuries. Every team in the league is missing somebody, whether through injury or COVID, who matters. This team is not any good. I'm not going to say they stink. I'm not going to say it's impossible they could reel off someone's, but I don't believe it, Tony. I watch the Lakers all the time, and they are somewhere between, oh my God, are you kidding me? And sometimes a disaster. Did you hear what Magic Johnson said about them last week? And I know Russell Westbrook sort of politely disagreed. I ain't disagreeing. That team is not any good. The pieces don't fit, and don't blame Frank Vogel because he didn't shop for the groceries, to paraphrase the great Bill Parcells.
Did you say the big ragu?
Yeah,
Did you
I just wanted to say
Laverne and Shirley?
I went
Did you go
Laverne and
Shirley on me?
Only you and I
so
know
weird.
that. Yeah.
I believe that this network talks about the Lakers far too much.
Yes, I agree.
They're a solid 500 team, and they have ghosts of good players. Ghosts, not the real good players anymore. If not for LeBron James, they're the Minnesota Timberwolves, which nobody ever talks about. But on this network, they are the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. They're a team that everybody talks about, even though their circumstance doesn't warrant it. I will say, I wouldn't fire Vogel either, but I'll tell you this. The history of LeBron James goes like this. When the going gets tough, the coach gets going. Yeah. LeBron has fired 1,000 coaches already, and this might be 1,001. Let's just look ahead at one thing, Mike. Let's look at this road trip if he's coaching day to day. At Orlando, at Miami, at Brooklyn, at Philadelphia, at Charlotte, at Atlanta. Lucky to win 3 games, right? Lucky to win 3. So if he's coaching day to day, he's gone somewhere between Brooklyn and Charlotte, and David Fizdale, LeBron's boy, becomes the head coach. And that's how it will work.
Very likely, Tony, 1 year they just changed over the whole team in Cleveland. They went out and got a whole new team at the break, and they got to the finals. But you know what?
Yeah.
That's then. What I see right now, last night is the first decent team the Lakers beat in about a month. They don't...
Eve's apple. Don't tempt me with this. I don't want to see this. Nobody should want to see this.
I do.
Mike Tyson shouldn't do this.
I wanna see
Mike
this.
Tyson is 55 years old. This guy, Jake Paul, is 25 years old. I know of him. I don't know him. He and his brother apparently go on YouTube and beat people up, and 35 million people watch it all the time. And this guy knocked out an MMA guy and destroyed him. I don't want to see Mike Tyson like that. Tyson wants to do this fight because there's a lot of money in it. This is a direct quote, Mike. Hell yes, I would fight them. They don't mind getting beat up for $100 million, but I don't want to see Tyson get beat up. So
Tyson's
do me a
not
favor.
getting beat
Don't
up.
buy the fight. Don't buy the fight. Don't invite me over to watch the fight because God knows I'll go. I'll take a bite of the apple. Don't let me do it.
This isn't Nate Robinson. This is doom. This is doom for them, for whichever Paul this is, as long as it ain't Chris Paul. I mean, what are you talking about? And Mike Tyson's not going to get beat up. Mike Tyson's going to drop this dude like a bad habit. Stop it. I want to see it. I want to be in Tyson's corner. As a matter of fact, and I know how to reach Mike, I'm going to ask him, let me be in your corner. Can I do something, have a pail of water? I want to be there to see Mike Tyson starch this dude. That's what I want to. He's a fighter. He trains all the time. He fights. Let him fight.
There's a report in the Las Vegas Sun that it's going to be in Las Vegas. You and I, he's 55 years old, Mike. I'm afraid of this one. What's next?
It's blank that Timo Meyer scored 5 goals in a game for the Sharks last night.
It's strangely common. The record is 7. Somebody had 7 goals in a game. Mike, there's 7 different guys have 6. Everybody gets 5. This guy got 5. 51 people got 5. Gretzky got 5 4 times. Okay? So this guy Meyer is the first Swiss player to get 5. That's his claim to fame, not the first European. A lot of Europeans have gotten it. I'm not knocking it. 5 goals, a lot of goals. He did it on 6 shots. It's great. He's an all-star, but in terms of comparison, 51 guys have gotten 5 goals. Hitting 4 home runs is really hard. Only 18 baseball players have hit 4 home runs in one game, just by comparison.
Yeah, but Tony, goal scoring goes in massive cycles. That home run hitting is a lot more moderate, those cycles to me, those trends. So I'm going to say this is late blooming. I'm going to concentrate on the player and not the feat. And he's had some nice goal scoring seasons, Tony, but he's in the 20s. He's up to 30. He's got like 55 points in 45 games. He's on a 100-point pace, greater than, actually. So late blooming to me. Gretzky, I mean, come on, Gretzky's the GOAT, and there's nobody else in the discussion but Gretzky. Sorry, New England and Bobby Orr and all that junk you people talk. This is late blooming.
Can't
to
get
come
to a
and do
segment
this at
without
this
calling
stage.
something junk. People should
Junk.
drink now because he said junk again. That's it.
Yeah.
Let's take one last break, but still to come, what does the Raiders firing of GM Mike Mayock mean for head coach Rich Bisaccia?
Give you permission to say something more than junk. You'll hear it. And are the Steelers safe to assume that Big Ben is retiring? He ain't Gretzky, Tom. Not Gretzky.
No. Happy time, people. Happy 28th birthday, Max Fried. The opening day starter for the Atlanta Braves and 38-13 over his last 3 years there. Fried was 14-7 this past year with a 3.04 ERA. Fried was rocked in Game 2 of the World Series, but came back on the road in Game 6 to throw 6 scoreless innings, strike out 6, and walk none as the Braves beat Houston for the World Series title. Fried was part of a pitching staff at Harvard Westlake High School in Los Angeles that included Lucas Giolito of the White Sox and Jack Flaherty of the Cardinals. They're all on the same high school pitching staff. Their pitching coach, Ethan Katz, is now pitching coach on the White Sox. Never heard of Harvard Westlake? Well, maybe you've heard of these alums. Candace Bergen, Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jamie Lee Curtis, Mark Harmon, Sally Ride, Dara Torres, Johnny Juzang, Bridget Fonda, John Lovitz, Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles, and hello, Shirley Temple?
I don't know that any high school in America can match that firepower, can it?
No.
I mean, that's sort of amazing. And when you go Shirley Temple to anchor, you know, I know that skews a little old for the 12-year-olds who watch us, but we're impressed. We as old people are impressed.
That's a wow. Happy anniversary, Sean Payton. On this day 16 years ago, Peyton was named head coach of the New Orleans Saints. The Saints were returning to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina drove them away. Peyton signed Drew Brees as his quarterback and thus began a relationship that resulted in a Super Bowl. Peyton's record in New Orleans is 152-89, 9-8 in the playoffs. He missed 2012, serving a one-year suspension for his role in Bountygate. Peyton played quarterback at Eastern Illinois, as did Tony Romo and Jimmy Garoppolo after him. In 1987, a strike year, Peyton played for the scab team of the Chicago Bears, known as the Spare Bears. He played in 3 games, going 8 for 23 for 79 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. The next year, Peyton started coaching at San Diego State, a road that would eventually lead to the Eagles, the Giants, and Dallas, where he was Bill Parcells' offensive coordinator before getting the job with the Saints.
He had to play for Mike Ditka, who wanted no part of that scab team. That must have been difficult. Some of us have been hoping he'd come back home and coach a young dynamic quarterback named Justin Fields. Some of us have been hoping that, but it doesn't. There's no fire burning for that, so I got to give up the ghost.
Happy trails, Mike Mayock. The Raiders fired their general manager after a 3-year run that produced a 25-24 record and the franchise's first playoff appearance since 2016, only its second since 2002. Mayock came to the Raiders after 15 years as an on-air draft analyst for the NFL Network. He was hired by John Gruden, who retained final say in personnel decisions. 2 of Mayock's first-round selections, Henry Ruggs III and Damon Arnett, are no longer with the team. Ruggs was released after the car he was driving crashed, killing a woman, and Ruggs was charged with driving drunk. Arnett was released after a video surfaced of him brandishing guns and making death threats. Some of Mayock's lower-round picks have become key players for the Raiders, including Pro Bowl defensive end Max Crosby and wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. With Gruden and Mayock gone, attention focuses on whether owner Mark Davis will retain interim coach Rich Bisaccia and make him permanent head coach. Wilbon, should he?
Tony, it seems to me that he's done enough to earn that chance. But with the Raiders, I mean, we can go all the way back to the beginning of time in the history of that franchise, and there are just sometimes you shake your head and you go, I have no idea what they're going to do. But it seems to me he's earned a shot.
I think getting him to the playoffs after it looked like it was going to dissolve fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson was in the Sun in England, not the Las Vegas Sun, my fault. And Timo Meyer had 45 points right now in 35 games, not
the Baltimore
55 and 45. All right? You ready to go to the big finish? Here we go.
Let's do it.
Your Bears will interview Byron Leftwich for their head coaching job later this week. Is that a good fit now that you're not going to get Sean Payton?
For me, for someone who's known Byron Leftwich since he was in 7th grade and he's earned his way up the ladder to get it, yes, that would be a good fit to me. Emma Raducanu advanced, but Leylah Fernandez lost at the Aussie Open. Your thoughts?
They were in the U.S. Open final last year, and to lose in the first round, that's too bad. And that's too bad. The Bruins will retire Willie O'Ree's jersey tonight. Your thoughts?
Tony, I presumed it had already been retired, but the day after the celebration of Martin Luther King Day, Martin Luther King's birthday, to have Willie O'Ree's number 22 jersey, yes, I love this. Yes, it's fitting. Mike Tomlin says the Steelers are proceeding with the assumption that Big Ben is retired. Safe assumption?
It seems like he's retired. He's done. It's the right time. Yes, he's done. Last one. Pistons and Warriors tonight. Who you got?
The Dubs are struggling, having lost 5 of 7. The Pistons on a roll, having won 3 of 5. But we go with Golden State in a landslide.
Yeah. We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. Lupo's in Endicott, New York. Shout out.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts. And now, here's SportsCenter.